Warning.
It's funny.
Welcome, Inspector General Horowitz.
He says this, and then somebody goes out of line.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, before we hear from the Inspector General, I feel compelled to say something about a topic that
Violation of D.C. law and the House rules, and it will not be tolerated, and this will be your only warning. Welcome, Inspector General Horowitz.
Mr. Chairman.
We will do our... Yes.
Mr. Chairman, before we hear from the Inspector General, I feel compelled to say something about a topic that is a more immediate priority.
Oh, God.
We've all seen the pictures of immigrant children ripped apart from their parents at the border. These children are not animals. They're not bargaining chips. They're not.
So he says you can't do this, and this guy does it.
They are children who have been forcibly removed from their parents in our name.
This guy talks about this, but at the same time, every time, some woman ran a red light or didn't listen to a cop or, got caught with drugs or drunk driving, this, that, or the other thing, kids got ripped away from their mothers. So it's okay for American kids to get ripped away from their mothers, but not, immigrants that have broken the law.
Every day that they are separated from their parents is a day we do irreparable harm to their health and well-being. The United States should be better than this. We should not put children in cages. The minute this hearing adjourns, sooner if we can,
Mr. Chairman, regular order.
Committees can work together.
Gentleman from Virginia has requested regular order.
Delay. Thank you,
Gentleman from New York has been given more time than would have been afforded the other side had we pulled something like that. So with that, we will welcome you, Mr. Horowitz, for what I think is a hearing on your Inspector General report into decisions made and not made in 2016.
This dude's such a cuck. He's trying to hop onto the good side.
We will be in recess until the Capitol Police restore order.
Blah, blah, blah.
Before it even began. If prejudging the outcome of an investigation before it ends and prejudging the outcome of an investigation before it begins is not evidence of outcome determinative bias, for the life of me, I don't know what would be. That is textbook bias. It is quite literally the definition of bias, allowing something other than the facts to determine your decision. These agents were calling her president before she was even interviewed. They were calling for the end of the Trump campaign before the investigation even began. They were calling for impeachment simply because he happened to be elected. That is bias. And with all due respect, it's the FBI's job, not mine, to prove that bias can ever be harmless. Because I don't agree. I think bias is always harmful. So we'll spend today on a small...
What happened to this guy? Because, he seemed like he was pretty bad in the beginning, kicking, these people in the teeth, but still ran around the circle. I mean, what, this guy ran out of haircuts? I mean, come on, this dude has had more haircuts than freaking Oprah. More hairdos than Oprah, and he's a man with short hair, and he's had that many different hairdos. And so he's ran out of hairdos, so now he's growing a beard. The funny thing is, he seems to be the only person that ever talks shit.
A significant and leadership group of DOJ and FBI officials who had leadership and supervision to meet the basic expectations of fundamental fairness. But there are tens of thousands of FBI agents and DOJ employees who do meet our exacting expectations, and we will not be calling their names today, unfortunately, because we don't do IG investigations on agents and prosecutors who do their jobs with character and professionalism. To those agents and prosecutors who do the right thing, the right way, and for the right reasons, we'll get through this. It will be tough and it will be difficult, but we will emerge on the other side with a stronger FBI and a stronger Department of Justice because we have to. We cannot have a justice system that bases decisions on anything other than facts. To our fellow citizens watching at home, be unrelenting in your expectations of our justice system.
Oh, we will.
Never lower those expectations.
You and your freaking Ferrari, too.
Respect for the rule of law is the thread that holds the tapestry of this country together. And it depends upon you having confidence in those you empower to enforce the law. And importantly, do not ever accept the notion that those victimized or impacted or negatively treated because of bias or prejudgment have any burden of proving harm. Bias is intrinsically harmful. It is the making up of your mind based on anything other than the facts. We use a blindfolded woman.
Oh
holding
God,
a set of
his
scales to symbolize
greatest
what
saying.
we
He
want
always
in a
says
justice
this.
system. And there is
I hope he
nothing
really
more
believes it.
antithetical to justice than lowering that blindfold
Him and his
and making up your
$170,000
mind based
car.
on who is standing in front of you. That is not who we are. That is not what we should
Never
ever
forget
become.
this dude stuck up for Mueller.
There is a saying
And
in the
James
courtroom,
Comey.
may justice be done though the heavens fall. You won't hear that saying in politics. You're more likely to hear, let's win at all costs, the heavens be damned. We can survive with politicians we don't trust. We can't survive with a justice system we don't trust. With that, I would recognize the gentleman from Maryland.
Oh God, this. Oh, I'm gonna rip this guy apart.
When we look back to the presidential campaign in 2016, there's one extremely troubling image we all remember very well. That is the image of Donald Trump and other Republicans chanting, "Lock her up, lock
Yeah.
her up, lock her up."
She's a murderer.
They were
She
talking
should
about
be
Hillary
locked up.
Clinton using personal email.
Murderers should be locked
And they
up.
demanded over and over again that she be jailed. But the Justice Department had already investigated. They had interviewed
Fake
witnesses,
investigation.
reviewed documents, analyzed the law,
Come on, give me a thumbs up, guys.
examined past charging decisions. At the conclusion of its investigation, the department disagreed with the Republicans. They did not charge Hillary Clinton with any crime.
It is hilarious how ignorant these people
And the
are.
entire
It's insane.
DOJ and FBI team on the investigation agreed.
If anybody
with
was an
that
Uncle
conclusion.
Tom, it would be this guy.
Of course,
He
the
hates black
Republicans
people more than
refused to
the
accept
KKK.
that conclusion. They wanted
But he wants to lick Hillary's butt.
Clinton to be guilty. So they attacked the investigation. They said there must have been collusion with Hillary Clinton. They called emergency hearings over and over and over again. They insisted on reviewing documents and re-interviewing witnesses. And they demanded that the Inspector General
Oh God, okay, you get
conduct
annoying.
the moral
He's still going.
and ethical issue of the day, which is the
I
president's
wish
new
James
policy
Comey like would just
to
like
separate
just.
children
get what he
from their
deserves.
families.
But I wish Trey
So I asked
Gowdy
the
would just be a
question.
man and just punch
And
this
it is
dude
a
right in the
simple
side of his head.
Are we
Just be
really
like,
going
"You're
to sit
lying!"
here,
Punch him right in the side of the head. Be
70
hilarious.
members of the Congress of the United States of America in 2018 and have a hearing that just repeats hearings the Senate had yet.
Okay.
Is now subject to the treatment that President Trump and some of my Republican colleagues will give it. I mean, there was total bias, the president argued on the White House lawn just last week. What are we to make of this disconnect between what the report says, the president and his allies say it says? Why is it that no matter how many times we litigate this question, House
This dude's
Republicans
such a
can think of
cuck.
nothing better to do than to endlessly investigate Hillary Clinton for the same conduct? Why is it that after half a dozen investigations found no wrongdoing at Benghazi, the majority spent millions of dollars on their own Benghazi Select Committee? And when that body found no wrongdoing either, why is it that the majority moved on to legitimize conspiracy theories about the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One? Why is it that after the Department of Justice and the FBI concluded it should not charge Secretary Clinton with a crime, rather than accepting the conclusion as we would in most criminal cases, the Judiciary and Oversight majorities launched an investigation into the Department of Justice and the FBI? Why is it
Because he knew there'd be
that
a
after you
fucking
released this
uprising
report,
from the
Mr.
right
Horowitz, some
if
of my
he didn't do
colleagues
something to
seriously
stop it, and
suggested
he'd be fucking
that we
burned
open
even
an
worse than he's getting
investigation
burned now.
into your investigation of the investigation? Why is it that here and now in June of 2018 we are still talking about Hillary Clinton's emails at all? I suspect it has something to do with the way Republicans have squandered their opportunity to govern and the
Oh God!
consequences of
You
abdicating
mean
their
that you even
responsibility.
cheated us,
Care Act,
you little
or to address an
freaking hobbit?
Relieve your aches and pains with Arnicare Gel, made from the pain
How about
relieving
not?
The country from that menace. And then we get to August 8th, 2016. Less than 2 weeks after the Russia investigation even began, the lead FBI agent says he will stop Trump from becoming president. This is 2 weeks into an investigation, and he's already prejudged the outcome.
You guys have known
and
this
we're
for how
somehow
long?
supposed to believe that that bias was not outcome determinative.
Do something.
I can't think of anything more outcome determinative than my bias against this person I'm investigating with only 2 weeks worth of investigating. I have already concluded he should not be the president of the United States. And then we get to August 15th, just over 2 weeks into the Russia investigation. Strzok says, I want to believe the path you threw out, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy. Mr. Inspector General,
If
that
this was
is
a Republican
2
that said this, they would have already burned you
into
at the
an
stake.
investigation, and he is talking about taking out an insurance policy because he can't fathom the target of his investigation possibly becoming the president.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the no,
So,
he's not going to be
What are you
president.
gonna
We'll
do?
stop
Look
it.
at this dude. He looks like an old
What do you
mob
think
boss.
the it is in that phrase, we'll stop it?
Yeah, for real.
Oh, I
What
think
up,
clear from
brother?
Context, it's we're going
Good to see you.
him from becoming president.
It doesn't even show anybody's on here. Give me a thumbs
Now, I
up.
wonder who the we is and the we'll stop it.
Good to see you, brother. I keep getting comments, but it doesn't tell me
I think
anybody's
that's
here.
Probably subject to multiple interpretations.
We'll see if
whether
we can
is
go
the
through a
two of
couple of
them, or the broader, or a broader group beyond that.
I mean, it's hard to fathom a definition of we that doesn't include him. So we know he's part of we. You could assume that the person he's talking with is FBI attorney who also happens to be working on the Russia investigation. She may be part of the we. But I wonder, Inspector General, did you find any other FBI agents or FBI attorneys who manifest any animus or bias against President Trump?
No.
We did.
How many?
We have found 3 additional FBI agents, as we detail in the report.
And were any of them working on the Russia investigation?
So let me just write 2 agents and 1 attorney.
2 other agents, 1 other attorney. Were they working on either the Russia
Were they the head of
investigation
it?
or the Mueller probe?
I believe 2
These
of the
people
3
have no
were, but I
facts.
have to just double check on that.
Oh my god, like who are you?
Now, Bob Mueller was
We
named
would be
special
ripped
counsel
apart.
on May the
If this was us,
17th,
we'd be
2017.
raped.
1 day later, Mr. Horowitz, 1 day later, Peter Strzok is back on his phone texting some more. For me, in this case, I personally have a sense of unfinished business. I unleashed it with the Clinton email investigation. Now I need to fix it and finish it. Fix what?
Well, there is outlined in the report what Mr. Strzok's explanation for
Oh, I know what he
this
said.
was.
I'm
Was
asking the guy who had a distinguished career at the Southern District of New York and had a distinguished career at the Department of Justice. Would you rather cross-examine Peter Strzok on that explanation, or would you rather direct the examination on that explanation?
Yeah.
probably cross-examined.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
How about finish it?
Stop
When
smiling,
he
you
said,
piece of
I
shit. You sold our
unleashed
country
it.
out.
Now I need to fix it and finish it. What do you think he meant by finish it?
I think in the context of the emails that occurred in August and the prior August that you outlined, I think a reasonable explanation of it, or a reasonable inference of that, is that he believed he would use or potentially use his official authority to take action.
But this is 24 hours into him being put on the Mueller probe. There's no way he possibly could have prejudged the outcome of the investigation.
Exactly.
Maybe he did.
Because
Maybe
he's
that's the
biased.
outcome determinative bias that my Democrat friends have.
What do you
such a
mean
hard
you said
time.
you were bought and paid for by Democrats, you
Inspector General Horowitz,
shithead?
if one
But
of your
good job.
investigators talked about Lisa
Sorry.
Page and Peter Strzok the way they talked about Donald Trump, would you have left them on the IG investigation?
No.
He's a flippin'.
Did you ever have an agent when you
So
were
I
a
stopped all the
prosecutor
fruity
with this
haircuts
level
and grew a
of
beard.
bias?
As I've laid out here, I thought this was completely antithetical to the core values of the department and extremely serious.
Can you speak up, please?
I'm sorry.
I heard you,
I-
but you can say it where Mr. Nadler can hear you too.
My view of this was that this was extremely serious, completely antithetical to the core values. In my personal view, having been a prosecutor and worked with FBI agents, I can't imagine FBI agents suggesting even that they might use their powers to investigate, frankly, any candidate for any office.
Yeah,
Well, I can't either. And let me ask you this in conclusion. I think you've already, you laid out in your opening that Peter Strzok's obsession with Donald Trump and the Russia investigation may have led him to take his eyes off of the Wiener laptop and in a notably ironic way caused Jim Comey to be a little bit later in sending those letters to Congress. So that is one example of outcome determinative bias. But I got to ask you, you used to be courtroom. You were on the side of the United States and you worked for the Department of Justice. If someone is prejudging the outcome of an investigation before it ends, and someone is prejudging the outcome of an investigation before it even begins, what is more textbook bias than prejudging this investigation before it's over and this one before it begins? I am struggling to find a better example of outcome determinative bias than that. So what am I missing?
Well, I think certainly with regard to the Russia investigation you mentioned, as you know, we are looking at that in an ongoing way. With regard to the
Clinton email investigation, I think as we lay out here and go through it, we looked at text messages, emails, documents to try and assess whether the specific decisions that we were asked to look at and then the ultimate prosecutorial decision were impacted by Strzok, Page, and the others' views. And
All right.
what we ended up finding, particularly...
It goes on and off. I don't know how many people are even on here or what it shows. I'm going to try to do a live feed later tonight. All right. Thanks for watching for what I had.